Welcome back to The Beat. I will always keep it 100 with you, transparent. We had a technical problem and fell completely out of the last segment. We think it's fixed, and we have something very exciting coming next. So I hope you'll remain with us. That should be all settled. We're 1 week out from the midterms. We've been following Obama's upbeat campaign appearances, which remind many that, and I mean this, it is possible to have some joy and humor in politics, just like how from SNL to late night, many comedians have been integral to how political stories do reach many people, including a lot of the people who vote but are not daily news junkies.
Would you welcome, please, Bill Maher?
At least we have a means of succession over here. We have Vice President Bush, who I must say is a tough job, too, because, he's tempted. He's a heartbeat away from a guy who's not that young himself, Reagan. I mean, that's got to be a temptation. I wouldn't be surprised if Bush goes around the White House trying to scare him. Boo! Thank you.
Oh, spooky. Happy Halloween. Now, the comedian there is someone who became a political voice in his own right, if not a fashion icon. Shout out to the white blazer. Bill Maher broke out 30 years ago with that first national TV appearance on The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. Tonight, he makes his Beat debut. Da-da-da-da. Bill Maher is here. We have a lot to get into. And I'm going to say this. Bill Maher has led comedy's approach to American politics from what was initially a largely bipartisan, inoffensive approach to what is now really become mainstream and normalized, direct, transparent, political style that, well, many younger people just take for granted. If you look at Stewart, Noah, Oliver, they tell you a lot of the time where they stand while being funny. It is a shift that actually we think began partially with a beloved and controversial show with a title that remains relevant in this MAGA era, Politically Incorrect.
He is one of the most controversial attorneys and most successful, I might say, of our time. And his new novel, Misconception, is printed on 100% recycled FBI documents. Robert Shapiro, ladies and gentlemen.
When we first did the pilot...
You really need a plug at this point, Jerry. We all know you've got a TV.
I would hardly...
Let's hear the history of his
I would hardly
We're all so interested.
I would hardly call being on this show a plug, Bill. But anyway...
The goal of a democracy is to have each of its citizens treated like Frank Sinatra. And remember, all the material you'll see on this show has been satirized for your protection.
Amen to that. And Maher does something that is actually pretty unusual, and I mean that literally, and this is appreciated, certainly on TV sets where news shows can last months and where comedians understandably talk about burnout after 5 or 10 years in this muck of a cycle. Real Time with Bill Maher is now in its 20th season on HBO.
FDR was vilified because he lost Eastern Europe. Truman lost Korea. Obama lost Libya. And Hillary, of course, lost Wisconsin. 24 things you don't know about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Would you like to hear them? I'm sure you would. For example, I've never been in a store without demanding to see the manager. It's depressing enough, having just had a birthday and being 66. Please don't ask me to start doing grown-up things like run for president.
Speaking of grown-up things and adulting, Bill Maher is still very busy. I will say that like every other living American, he has a podcast. He talks about everything but politics on there, and he still does the stand-up that did make him so famous and so interesting to so many different audiences over so many decades, including the most recent special, Adulting.
Have you noticed that Trump, unlike every other president, did not age in office? We did. We aged a lot. I said from the beginning, he was never going to concede if he lost. Everyone was like, oh, Bill, you smoke too much pot. Well, apparently I smoked just the right amount of pot.
And Maher's headed to New York for an evening with Bill Maher Saturday, November 12th at the Hulu Theater at MSG. With apologies to Seinfeld, this is a plug. Welcome to The Beat.
And a fantastic one. There's no time left for me to talk now, but who cares? Thank you for reviewing my career. I must correct one thing. That Tonight Show was, I hate to say it, but 40 years ago.
40 years ago?
Yeah.
We'll take a correction on,
that was
on the press.
1982. Politically Incorrect started almost 30
years ago. So
That's
here
right.
you are.
Yeah, and it's funny because I actually like myself better now. I mean, watching that stuff, it's embarrassing. The suit, the jokes, you know, I don't think we recognized it enough in America because we're so ageist and we're so youth obsessed that sometimes people do get better.
Yeah.
You don't get cuter in general, but, you know, we do get better.
I mean, we all live long enough to have our old fashioned and some of our old ideas embarrass ourselves.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Let me start with the serious, and then we'll get to a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We got all kinds of stuff. But the most serious thing going on, and I wanted to get your view of it because it relates to speech and rhetoric, is the right-wing violent rhetoric that is the context for this terrible attack on the Speaker Pelosi's husband, her home, and was targeting her. I know you care about free speech, so do I. I actually, viewers know, practice First Amendment law for Floyd Abrams. But there's no free speech right to incitement.
No.
Do you think that well, we still have to follow the facts. We don't have all the facts yet about this defendant. Do you think the wider violent rhetoric, especially on the right, is contributing to all this?
Of course. I think we're in a cold civil war in this country. I mean, people keep talking about civil war. There's an awful lot of people who will tell a pollster they think it's going to come. Some seem eager for it, which I keep saying, so you want to kill other Americans? Is that really where you're at? I mean, some people are. And other people ask, I've asked, what is the next civil war we're going to have look like? And of course, it's not going to look like the last one because it's not like we're neatly on two sides of a border with armies that are going to fight each other. It's going to look like this. It's going to look like attacks on different people. There was a drag queen story hour in a pub in Portland, I think it was, last week, that there was violence. They kind of attacked it, and there was some sort of brouhaha outside with weapons and so forth. That's what the next civil war looks like.
And we're an overarmed country in that sense.
Right. I mean, on the other side, police officers have been attacked because there has been rhetoric on the other side saying things like all police are racist and so forth, things like that. So it's not like it's one-sided, and there's a lot of nuts out there. No, one side definitely has more squirrels, and that would be the right.
Yeah.
They do. And they also seem to like violence more. So, you know, for the people who, on the left, who are egging on a civil war, I would say don't. They have more guns and they know how to use them.
Right, that's sort of a little bit of practicality mixed in there as well, in addition to morality. As we look at the midterms, let me show you some of what we're hearing. I've got both candidates, but first from Republican candidates right now.
I just want to save as many lives as possible. I think that's the goal of a pro-life policy.
You cannot accuse me of insurrection. I was a victim of the January 6th riot just as much as any other member of Congress.
Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I think that marriage ought to be between a man and a woman.
We want to know the winner on election night. We don't want to be counting for 10 days.
Will you accept the results of your election in November?
I'm going to win the election, and I will accept that result.
Spoken like Mussolini, you mentioned you're decades in. Have you ever seen a Republican slate like this, particularly on democracy?
Well, I've seen them have kooks before. I mean, you know, I remember 2010 with the witch, the one who I think I helped make a star. She used to be on, of course, you know, used to be on Politically Incorrect. And then when I exposed her as the witch, I mean, that was good for comedy fodder. And you know, the guy who said we can shut that whole thing down with rape, remember Murdoch was that. I mean, they've fielded crazy candidates before. It's sort of the brand.
At this point, yeah.
Yes, now it's sort of something that's taken over. I mean, before I came here, I was working on our editorial for this Friday's show, and the theme of it really is goodbye democracy, because I think once we have this election, if the Republicans now, by all measures, they're going to win this election.
You think?
Well, I mean, the party out of power almost always wins the midterm election anyway, right? Because it's the midterms, you got to throw the rascals out. So everyone's sort of acting like this is a normal time, but it's not. Once they win, the die is cast. Because what's going to happen is, I think there's something like 291 people on the ballot for who are election deniers or serious questioners, but they basically don't believe in democracy. They don't believe that, you know, the person with the most votes wins unless he's on our side. Okay, so this is what Trump has been doing behind the scenes, wanting to put these people in place. Because let me tell you something, Ari, on January 20th, my birthday, 2025, he's going to show up at the inauguration, whether he's on the list or not. He's going to show up. But this time, he's going to have this army of election deniers that he has put in place. I mean, people don't slide into authoritarianism necessarily with tanks in the street. Hitler was elected. Putin was elected. Erdogan in Turkey was elected. Viktor Orban. It's a little like, most immigrants, how many walls you build, most immigrants, illegal immigrants, just take a plane here and then stay. That's how they get here.
Yeah.
In a similar way, you can get elected and then just not leave. And that is what I think is going to happen.
Yeah. And then I want to get on the other side. We've shown early in the broadcast what Biden and Obama have been saying. Here's what some Democrats are saying, and some Republicans have been trying to flip this into a kind of a crime wave election, among other things. Here's a couple Democrats on the trail.
Senator Schumer's here, and I want to make sure he's my future boss, so I got to suck up a little bit here.
There is absolutely no doubt that the data shows that the vast majority of incidents of domestic terror come from white nationalism, and that we are really, truly facing an environment of fascism and in the United States of America.
We're talking about incarcerated individuals who don't have a right to vote, which is unfortunate in itself and another conversation.
You were a big Obama backer publicly, but you're also independent. What do you think of the Democrats' closing argument here a week out?
Gave him $1 million.
I heard.
In 2012, because I thought it was that important that the first African-American president not be elected, but re-elected. That was really important. So I was happy to do that. Yes, I mean, the Democratic Party, I think, is in a very different place than it was under Obama. But I hate to beat a dead horse there. I have to go back to, they're running on all these issues that are like normal, sort of normal issues. Crime, we've heard that before, inflation. People haven't gotten it, I don't think. This ship of state has hit the iceberg. But we're still like acting like it's normal, like they did on the Titanic after oh, what was that? And then they went back to drinking champagne. But really, the ship was going to go down. If the Republicans win this election, which I'm sure they will, I think they will, again, it's all about then what we're going to see in the next 2 years is just hearing after hearing about whatever, Hunter Biden, and they're going to impeach Biden himself. And then, again, Trump is not going to accept no for an answer with the election, and he's going to have the people in place this time
so just
who
to
will
sharpen
allow him to pull off this coup. And then they are just never, I mean, I've been saying this since 2016.
But your warning is they're going to run quasi-normal. Hey, crime, prices, that's what they're running. And then they're going to govern totally fascist.
Well, but the Democrats are running normal too. That's what I'm saying, is that nobody has realized.
Nobody's meeting the moment.
Nobody has realized that we are already in a completely different paradigm. And this has happened in many other countries, and it seems to be happening now. This is it can't happen to us moment, but it's happening to us. And, this is the way I think it's going to play out. And we will really, it'll be very interesting in January of 2025. Because if he wins, and he could win legitimately, because, this is America, and the Democrats do some goofy stuff. I understand. I mean, I always say, you can hate Trump. You can't hate everybody who votes for him. It's half the country. That's the way to...
A little under half.
That's not the way to that is the way to civil war. To stop talking to each other.
Well, and interestingly,
to just hate each other.
To flesh that out, the Democrats you mentioned who have won nationally and decisively, Obama and Biden, have done more of what you're saying, which is try to win people back and try to leave room for crossing that path. On fascism, I want to play you some Lindsey Graham, who's in the news tonight because I mentioned he's always telling people just comply with police, but not him. He takes it all the way to Supreme Court. He also did the same thing that he warned against when there was alleged looting and unrest in the 2020 BLM protests. He said, hey, you got to be responsible. We can't be governed this way, right? You got to put that down. And yet the thought that if a prosecutor might indict Donald Trump, this is what Lindsey Graham warned about.
If there's a prosecution of Donald Trump for mishandling classified information after the Clinton debacle, which you presided over and did a hell of a good job, there'll be riots in the streets.
Is that wrong?
Well, I mean, Lindsey Graham, come on. I mean, what are you saying, that he's a shameless hypocrite?
I'm not saying anything. I'm asking you a question.
Of course he is. I mean, it's Lindsey Graham. The thing I think he's talking about here, where maybe he's not, but I think it's just a great example of the shameless hackery that goes on, is, you know, when it was about Hillary's classified material, that was the whole election, her emails, which turned out to really have nothing on them. You know, it was about wedding planning and stuff. And then Trump, you know, like steals, like literally steals classified documents and puts them at his golf club in the shed with the croquet equipment. but that's okay. I mean, it was such a, and even when he was in office, much greater violations of that. You know, he would talk on a insecure phone. Yeah. The president of the United States, you know, he had the Russians into the Oval Office. Remember that day? And, you know, give away secrets. He didn't know what mattered. He didn't care. It doesn't. So, you know, if you're asking about the hypocrisy with the Lindsey Grahams in the world, I'm out.
You're out.
I mean, I've just.
That's like he was out. He was out on Jan 6 for about 8 hours. I don't know if you remember. He said, "I'm out. Count me out." I've got our shortest break on this show. It's 1 minute, and then I got some final stuff for you, including fun stuff, the drug war, and why Fox News now loves you. We'll be back with Maher in 1 minute.
I'm sorry. What'd you say? Said I was still fine. Okay. I'm not going to tell Michelle you said that. Although Michelle does agree. She knows.
Barack Obama having a little fun over the weekend. We're here with Bill Maher. Does he still got it?
You know, you watch him and you think, geez, is it that hard to come up with somebody else who could do that? And apparently it is. Yeah, he's still
apparently, yeah.
He's still got it. I don't know if other people in that party still have it, but I just want to rebut one thing you said about
I'll let you rebut it. Let me show it.
Okay.
And then is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. I know it's usually your show.
No.
So this is hard for you. Okay, that's different.
Go ahead.
Let's look at a little bit of Fox News on Bill Maher lately.
It just tells you how far left, exactly as you were saying, that the Democrats have gone. That they've gone racing off and left Bill Maher there as the sensible one.
Humans are continually evolving, as opposed to Wokeville, where they're always shocked we didn't emerge enlightened from the primordial ooze.
We didn't emerge enlightened from the ooze. What a great way of putting it. So well said.
Bill Maher is saying exactly what we have been saying, but it doesn't matter because he reaches people that we can't.
You wanted to respond to your best friends. Go ahead.
Well, what Fox News does is they ignore like the 75% of my show, which is critical of the things that they would believe. And then they just show the thing that they agree with. Now, it is true. People say to me sometimes, you know, you make fun of the left more than you used to. Yes, because they're nuttier than they used to be. And that's what Fox News leaps on. I mean, my show is a debate show.
Yeah.
Where it tries to, you know, hear both sides and present both sides. And there is a lot on the left that needs criticism these days. I don't think it's a great thing that America's in its silos, where it only hears the thing it already believes. Not that you don't do a great show, because you do. But
You'll get a lot of views on here.
I understand.
I don't know if you ever watch.
No. I watch it all the time. I do. And this is mostly where my politics is. But, you know, this is not the way this country is going to heal itself. By only listening to what it already knows. And I think when historians look back, and we are going to go down, I think, they're going to blame a lot of, first of all, the phone, the fact that you can just listen and hear only what you already know.
Yeah, you're totally bubbled.
Algorithms, right.
I think you make a great point. I'm moving us on to a lightning round, which is fast in a word or a sentence. You're a comic, so this will be easy for you. We do this with a lot of people.
All right.
Something most Republicans get wrong.
Hairstyle.
Something most Democrats get wrong.
Oh, gosh. I'm bad at lightning rounds, Ari.
Something positive you could honestly say about Donald Trump.
I think he was right to move the embassy to Jerusalem.
Your dream guest.
You've already been on, so I can't name you.
Please.
I'd like to have Hillary Clinton.
Okay. I hope she's listening. You've been all around the world. Your favorite city for the humor, the reactions when you perform live?
New York City, where I'll be on November 12th at the Hulu Theater. Oh,
The double plug. We know that move, actually. That would be like me saying you could pre-order the January 6th report, the HarperCollins edition, as a forward by me. That's not something I'm going to do. Not on the beat, not on a day when I have a comedian. Your favorite comedian, whether they're political or not?
Probably Jerry Seinfeld.
Seinfeld, because he's so funny?
Yes, because, you know, he can make anything funny, including things that don't seem to matter. They seem trivial. And yet the biggest intellectual in the room is not insulted by them.
Final question. For people who look at someone like you, who seems to be having a good time and seems to speak his mind, and as we showed, has been doing it for a long time, what's something a young person could do to try to have your life or career that they might not realize they need to do, that you've done, for real?
Don't follow me, because you can never do what's already been done. You have to forge your own path. You have to be unique. You know, we use the term snowflake a lot, but it used to mean something different. When you said snowflake, it didn't mean you were fragile. It meant you were completely unique.
One of a kind.
One of a kind, and that's what you have to do. So just be yourself.
I love that. I love that. I hope people are listening. We sometimes say around here, keep it real.
Yes.
But tonight we say keep it incorrect. Okay.
Great
Real
to see you.
time. Bill Maher. We're going to fit in a break. We'll be right back.